You're listening to 12 Degrees Freely with Madeline Andrews, striving to level the playing field so people can be, do, and have the life they always wanted. Hi, Madeline Andrews here, otherwise known as the Energy Diva. In this episode, we'll explore conceptuality, systems, and fields of potentiality. In some of the previous episodes and subsequent episodes of this season, I talk about concepts and how everything on the planet is a concept. Okay, what does that mean and how does that help you? In this episode, I want to really dive into conceptuality and how taking the time to remember the teachings or taking a step back in the midst of going through a situation, how these teachings can help you. I also want to go over how all of these concepts combined create a system and how systems stay in place. And finally, I wanted to explore fields of possibilities and potentiality that, when enacted, can shift your energies and thus your entire paradigm, perhaps causing you to see reality or the world in a different way. So let's go ahead and jump into concepts. As I've said before, everything is a concept. The entire universe, the air we breathe, and the reality we experience is a concept. I mean, think about it. Look at the concept of air. We breathe air. How do we know that? Someone came along, figured that the space with all the atoms and molecules that weren't visible, would be quote unquote space. And then someone came along, might have been the same someone for all I know, started to define it as air. And then someone came along, could still be the same person for all we know, and started giving all these scientific attributes to this thing called air. The masses of the people brought into it, and there you have it. It's called air, and it's defined as air. And like Buckminster Fuller explained, wrong beliefs and misorientation are acknowledged only when those things which are physically and metaphysically true become experimentally provable and comprehensible. But let's interject some things here. Nature is constantly transforming. Who are we to kid ourselves into thinking that everything isn't constantly transforming? But wait, there's more. This comes from Walter Russell's The Secret of Light, to entertain, and Fuller seems to allude to it as well. But Russell explains that the brain does not think, nor does it know, and is just a storage system of recorded sensations. Want me to say that again? The brain does not think, nor does it know. It just stores recorded sensations and remembers those recorded sensations for man's usage when he or she needs them to satisfy the body. It's purely electrical. We sense vibrations through sensed electrical awareness. So wait a minute. When a person senses a concept, you notice I said think, I didn't say think, but I said senses. A concept, isn't it possible that the main item or thing or what have you that is physically and metaphysically provable can constantly change? Just like nature does, and certain conceptual principles like the observer effect? Yes, I go into that in another episode. But couldn't those principles change what we know or thought we knew or sensed by the minute? And if so, I'm getting ready to go to Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. Who changes the textbooks when the concept changes and that which becomes physically and metaphysically provable changes too? Who holds the press conference? Perfect example. COVID-19, completely foreign and off the radar. Scientists working diligently to find out how it manifests, in who, why, how to contain it, and what are the variables that cause mutation. All in effort, right? Then comes the belief systems, points of view, conspiracy theories, the whole nine, and the poor scientists are giving the conceptual characteristics of how the virus is behaving for that set moment of time when it's being observed, and the poor scientists are getting blamed and attacked for reporting what he or she sees, which is ever changing, because that's just what nature does. And then there's me in the background, influenced by Napoleon Hill, saying, well, I just want to know who's going to change some textbooks. But you see why I keep calling it a concept. It's a generalized pattern of energy. And it's cool here below on the physical plane when it helps us accomplish something or reach a desired destination. But what happens when the concept causes a conflict amongst certain masses of people? How do you even get to concept reconciliation, and is there even such a possibility? After all, it's a sense, not a thought, metaphysically and physically provable until it's not. Just understand that everything is a concept. Now let's look at the concept of systems. Funny thing is, all concepts are systematic, and anything a person can experience is a system. But most people aren't even aware that they're in a multitude of systems. Looking at the components that create a system, Fuller explains that it's always three principal parts that make up a system, which are 1, the system itself; 2, all things or universe outside of the system or the macrocosm; and 3, all things or universe inside of the system or the microcosm. Now, why is all of this important? Okay, now back up. Remember when I just explained that anything anyone can experience is a system? But if Fuller is saying that one of the principal parts that make up a system is all of the things outside of the system or the macrocosm, could it be the case that once a person or group of people are aware of the conceptual components that make up that system, he or she does not have to opt into that system, form a morphic field of their own, if you will? I mean, you can take a conceptual system like systematic racism. Oh yeah, a hot topic right now. But it's conceptual, meaning it can have power or energy or not have power or energy over you. And don't forget, we are all granted free will, so either it is or it isn't. You decide. Every individual decides. Collective consciousness decides. Hang with me. You look at the components within that system that make it what it is and gives it its energy. And with the concept of systematic racism, perhaps it's fear, economic disempowerment, lack of opportunity, inadequate and unrelatable education. Yes, Napoleon Hill, I heard you. And it could be a slew of conceptual concepts entrained within that system that make it so. But remember, there's also the macrocosm, or all of the universe outside of that system. That's where you find the proposed solutions, not within the system or the microcosm. Remember when Einstein said that you can't use the same line of thinking as the one that caused the problem in the first place? Ding, ding, ding. But in all fairness, it's not really the fault of the unconscious or the unaware. Not completely. We chase all of these freaking degrees and titles and paper thinking the more that we get of this stuff, the more we know. And we don't really know stuff. We sense stuff, going back to Walter Russell. But have we really been taught how to problem solve and come up with solutions outside of a systematic approach of what's been taught to us by someone else, especially if they hadn't came with updated textbooks. And have we been taught, when looking at the rules of engagement, that instead of win-lose, that win-win could actually benefit the microcosm and the macrocosm without affecting the bottom line? Wrapping this up, I just wanted to touch upon how you, the individual I, can keep all of these concepts and systems in a less stressful and pretty cool context. That's by keeping it in the field of potentiality and possibilities. And that, my bright, beautiful beings, is powerful. Nothing, no form whatsoever, becomes solidified and into a conditional field of energy until you start naming it, labeling it, defining it, and saying, this is this. That's not to say don't be aware of things and address things. Wrongs do have to be reconciled in space and time, just like light reconciles with darkness somewhere in space and time. But you keep it fluid enough in space so that it doesn't erect the solidified structure filled with the energy of belief systems and points of view that are fixed, non-changing, and perhaps not even serving anyone, including you. I'm Madeline Andrews, also known as the Energy Diva. Check out my website at madelineandrews.com or energydiva.com. That's INNERGDIVA.com, or 12 Degrees Freedom, the number 12, the 2 words degrees, freedom spelled out.com. There you can find my products, services, programs, my email list, and social media links. And always remember, the greatest gift God ever gave us was the gift of mind, not the brain. Give yourself the great gift by tapping into universal mind and open yourself up to the possibilities.